and welcome to another Thursday where we're going to be doing a discussion tonight. And I have a co-host tonight, and this is my daughter, Ayana. That's what I guess. Yeah. And she is here to be my sidekick for tonight, and we're going to be talking about parent and teen relationships and what's good to do and what's not good to do, and can we all just get along? And so tonight you have Jessica and her daughter Sanaya, who will be leading the discussion tonight. And just before they come on, I'm gonna let Ayana, she's gonna read just the scripture. Where are you reading from?
Proverbs 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart.
You done? Oh, that's it. Got it. All right, so I'm gonna bring in our speaker. Hello. Hello. So we have Jessica and Sanaya tonight.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Facebook world.
Yes, and you are also streaming on. No, they're not.
Well,
yeah. Okay.
Streaming on what?
We will be streaming on Instagram.
I know. I'm trying the Instagram thing out too. So,
are you doing it too? Good, because we can't get y'all on there.
I'm trying. I don't. We'll see how it turns out. It's my first Instagram live, so we'll see.
All right. So everybody, they've been introduced to you, or you've been introduced to them rather. And Ayana has read the scripture that you gave us, and we're going to turn it over into your hands so you can get started.
Well, hello once again. We've been introduced, but I first want to thank my cuz, my fam, and her business, Beyond Her Belief. I love that name, by the way. But thank you so much for the invitation. And I think that this topic is very timely in the society we live in today. I think it's a good idea to speak on relationships with our teens. We typically focus on our kiddos, our younger kids, but what about our teenagers? So I represent myself, even though I have over 17 years experience in education. The things that I will talk about today come from not only my experiences in the school buildings, but just being in the community, watching the news. I do watch the news, by the way, and then having my own daughter. So I come to you today with different perspectives. It's not just about me working in education, but it has a lot to do with it. And I also come to you as the founder of Belle's Beauty Brains, which is my business. I do a lot of promoting. Whoop, whoop. It's been around for a while, since 2016, right? And so
awesome.
It's my baby, and I'm hoping to do better and greater things in the future. But Belle's Beauty and Brains focuses on self-care, success, and star power in terms of our young women, as well as our adult women, young adult women. And so I feel like this topic fits right hand in hand with my business, because I love working with mothers And so thank you once again for inviting myself, Jessica Bell Blackshear, and my daughter,
Sanaya Granberry.
Thank you so much. All right, so disclaimers. Disclaimers. Let me just go and let y'all know my disclaimers. All right. I'm that kind of person. We are not parenting experts on relationships. Okay. Y'all got that? We're not the experts of that. This presentation is not about discipline or behavior or about whooping the butt and all that, even though we all have our different opinions about that. However, I do welcome some discussion around it, but that's not the focus of the presentation or our discussion today. We do not have the perfect parenting relationship, right?
Yes, right.
I think we all know there is no such thing as a perfect person, but we do not have, you know, the perfect relationship or life. Let me make that clear, okay? So guess what, mothers and fathers? You are not perfect either. So you all can take a deep breath. Everybody just close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out. No such thing as a perfect person, and definitely is no such thing as a perfect parent. All right. No matter your upbringing, no matter what you know, no matter how much psychology you know, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. And I want you all to take time to give yourself grace on that. So now let's go back into time. You ready to go back in time?
I'm ready.
Back in the day? All right. So I'm going to read some statements, okay, that might have been said to you or around you when you were a teen and maybe even a child, okay? So I need some engagement. I need some participants in the comment section. If you can relate to any of these statements, you can add to it or you can agree to it. So I want to see the likes, the hearts, even the smiley faces, okay? Because some of these are funny, okay? So we're going back in the day. All right, so the first statement is, I brought you in this world and I can do what, Toya?
Take you out.
Take you out. Anybody remember that statement? Anybody? Okay, yep. The next one is, because I said so, that's why.
Right.
Now, let me be clear, family, that some of us may still use these statements, and that's okay. But I'm going to tell you what you need to add to it, okay? The next one is, I'll give you something to what, Sanaya?
Cry about.
Right.
I'll give you something to cry about. Ayana's like, oh. The next one is, you are smelling yourself. You think you grown now because you done turned 16? Anybody remember that?
Right.
Or even 12 and 13, right?
Right.
The next one is, this hurts me more than it hurts you. When we punish a child.
I don't believe that.
Was that you?
I don't believe it.
Anybody in the comment section add anything to these statements?
They just saying take you out, and yes, they agreeing with you. They remember them.
Okay.
And use them.
And you said still use them? Okay.
Or have used them.
I'll have used them. Okay. How about fix your face, or I'll fix it for you?
That's the best one.
Now, how is that the best one?
Because I have a personal thing with that, because I remember Ayana being little and me saying, fix your face. And she was like, it was the cutest thing, but you just, it was just something that you said. I want you to get it together. She didn't know what I was
trying to fix it, for real. Right. She tried to do that. Okay. Right. Hey, there you go. How about this one? And this is real old school. If you don't like what's on the table, then suck your thumb.
I never heard that one.
Well, you can add to that. If you don't like what I cook, then you can do what? You can find you something in the refrigerator or whatever.
Oh no. I don't know what you're gonna do. Go to bed hungry.
Right, right. That's a statement too. You can go to bed hungry.
Food or go to bed hungry.
Yep. A hard head makes a what?
Soft bottom.
A soft bottom. And I still use that myself, don't I?
Yes.
I do. I do that when I describe, I don't care if it's politics. I don't care if it's about relationships, the weather. I don't care. I use that statement. And the last one, which is, it's not really good, but children should be seen and not heard. Y'all never heard of that? I have. I have heard that. And so these statements can be very impactful to our teenagers, definitely to our youth, but they can be very impactful to our youth. We use these statements in today's times, or at least I know I still do. However, when we make these statements, where's the substance? Are you saying anything else with that type of communication? Are you having real, authentic, deep conversations, or are we just saying, fix your face, or I'll fix it for you?
You're just saying this. Because they don't know what it means most of the time.
Yeah, that's true. They may not know what it means. And guess what? That's where a parent's job is to not only say these cute type of statements, but also to have a teachable moment. Okay, so what I'm pushing more for parents, teen parents, is having more substance in your conversations. You know, it needs to be deeper, more authentic. Okay. All right. So basically the question is, are you giving your teen a chance to use their voice? How about that question, parents? Are you giving them a chance to use their voice? All right. So before we get into the meat of the presentation, let's break down the teenage years. First of all, in the comments section, have them to type in, how do they describe teenagers besides the dramatic? What are some words you all think of when you think of teenagers? What are some words you all think of when you think of teenagers besides the dramatic?
Besides dramatic.
Besides the dramatic, what some words come to your mind when you think of teenagers?
Wow.
Anybody in the comment section?
Not yet.
What are some words to describe
one
teenagers?
thing, emotional.
Emotional, yes. Balls of emotion.
Right.
Emotional.
Chatty Cathy's. Moody.
Moody. Definitely moody.
Opinionated or opinions. Opinionated or somebody said headache.
Woo. Yes, those are great words.
Adventurous. Somebody said.
Definitely. You said what's nice?
No, it's because they said adventurous.
Oh, adventurous.
Okay. Opinionated, moody.
I thought you said a headache was
right.
nice.
Nothing good tonight.
I was like, that's nice. That's nice to finally.
All right. So those are great words to describe teenagers. So keep in mind, teenage years start around with 13, but they go through that puberty stage, that puberty stage, the tweens. I know you've heard of that term before, the tweens.
Yes.
So a lot of our young people started puberty at an early age. And just think about the stage before being a teenager. Think about puberty. Y'all remember those days? Parents, puberty? I don't even want to go back to that, right? But they're going through so much. Their body is changing. I know you all know this, but we have to remind ourselves that their bodies are constantly changing every single day. Every single day, the body is changing. The biological is changing, the physical, the emotional, all those different aspects. And then you have the brain development. Now, educators, you cannot answer this question. So how do you all think the brain develops? How do you all think the brain fully develops?
At what age?
At what age? Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What age do you all think? Just take a guess.
I'll say 21.
21?
That's just
that's a guess.
Me.
That's a guess. What about you, Yana? Do you know? Have you heard of this before?
No, I've never.
You never heard this before? Yeah. What age the brain develops? Fully develops. Your mom says 21.
Somebody else said 21 too.
21.
Does it make sense? Like,
wrong.
Yeah, I know why a lot of
become legal.
Yeah, a lot of laws say 21. Right.
Somebody said 4.
4. 4. Okay. Well, the answer to that is 25.
Oh, wow.
25 is the answer to brain development. And in some cases, 26, 27 years old. So think about the brain development. When you're going back and forth with your teen child, or I called it teen child, but when you're going back and forth with your teenager, because at that time you think they act like a child, right?
Right.
But just think about their brain and how it's not developed. Let that sink in. That means a lot of us are not too far from 27 and 25. So the part of the brain that the teen uses is the brain that is the motion part of the brain. Okay. They don't use the same part of the brain that grown-ups, that adults use. They use the part that controls emotions, and that's why they're emotional. Whereas adults, yes, hello. Whereas adults, we use the brain that controls reasoning. So that's why some things don't add up to teens. Like you're saying 1 + 1 is 2, and they're like, no, it's 0. And you're like,
oh,
what?
Gosh. I'm
giving you a simple example, but there are just some times where we just cannot connect.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody has had issues with connection, but that's part of it. Okay. So just keep in mind of what teens are going through in their bodies as well as their brains. Okay. So let that sink in. So having said that, before we begin the question answers, let's talk about what our teenagers are facing today. Let's not forget that they're going through a lot of things, parents. Okay, they're going through a lot of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name off some things that our kids, our teenagers are dealing with, and it begins with the letter D, because dealing begins with D. So all the words I'm going to bring up begin with the what? Letter D.
D.
The first thing that teens, and this is in no particular order, okay? The first thing that our teens are facing is decision making. Can you all say decision making?
Decision making. Can you
decision making? Everything is a decision. And remember, choices have consequences. They're making so many different decisions, right? Not just only their fashion, but just friendships and where they want to go to college and, you know, what they want to be when they grow up. And I mean, it goes all the way from simple to large, okay? But they have so many decisions they have to make. You agree with that?
I definitely agree. Yes.
It's an everyday thing. Yes, it's an everyday thing. Dating. Toy said,
Well, it's real.
It's real, dating. And like I said, this is in no particular order, but dating is a decision, is a actual something that they're dealing with. And it's a decision they have to make. They have to make, okay, do I want to deal with this guy
or this girl? Do I want to? Could be a distraction.
Distraction. But yeah, dating could be a distraction too.
A decision.
But yes, but dating, whether or not to date, whether or not your parents agree with it, you know, the parent across the street, they may agree with it, but you don't, you know. So dating, daring, we know kids are daring, good and bad ways. I don't want to make it seem like there's, you know, only negative. Okay. Drugs, that's a D word. I'm gonna tell you right now, the marijuana, is really prevalent right now. Okay. So drugs and self-medicating and things of that nature. Doubt. You know, our teens doubting themselves, doubting their confidence, doubting who they are because somebody told them that they were ugly, because somebody told them that they were dark skinned.
Or just growing up in a world revolving around social media and being in the public eye and always having to be perfect.
Definitely. I could definitely see doubting being an outcome of social media, you know. Defiance. Let's be defiant. Let's be defiant. Let's go against what my mother and father says, right? We all been there, done that. Don't judge. Driving. These are the years where we discussed Yana said, I don't know. This is the years that we discussed that, right? We discussed whether or not is it time, you know, is it time? So driving, division in friendships. There's all kinds of division. You know, your friend group that you started off with in preschool, elementary, and middle may be different in high school, and definitely your senior year, it may be different. So division in friendships. Now this one is deep. You ready? Depression. Parents, let's remember, these are the years that our teenagers, they can become easily depressed, right? So she's going to give you some information on depression in teenagers.
So one of there's like all types of statistics that they have involving like depression during teenage years, but one of them that's, you know, stuck out to me was an estimated 3.2 million adolescents aged 12 to 17 in the United States had at least one major depressive episode. And I just wanted to particularly point that out because a teenager can always go through a depressive episode without having to just be completely diagnosed with full-on depression. Like it's more like you can always have a point where that's just one situation or one time where you have that depressive episode. So I wanted to particularly point that out, especially in times like these with COVID. It's definitely has an effect on our mental health. And so before, you know, a lot of parents are like, depression, you're not depressed, da-da-da. So that's why I wanted to particularly point out a depressive episode, just one particular moment of their life. So yeah.
And to add to depression, I know that depression is like a mental disorder, but I want to put in there depression/disease. Parents, we have to protect our sons and daughters from sexually transmitted diseases. Amen?
Amen.
Yes, because there are some that you cannot cure, and there's some that you can. But who determines that? You know? So, and not just sexually transmitted diseases, but it's all kind of diseases and disorders, okay? Eating disorders, just keep all that in check, okay? Dedication. Let's talk about something positive. Our teenagers are dedicated. I see a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, they're dedicated to their schoolwork, to their friendships, to their church, place of worship. Ayana, like I see you killing it in that area, right? I mean, you are very dedicated to your, and I think that is worthy to be praised. We have a lot of young people who are in the church, but they're also balancing school life and being in the community and friendships and let's not forget about sports.
Yeah.
I watched my daughter, she did not complain about going to dance in her teenage years. Anytime somebody saw me, where your daughter at? Dance. Where's she at now? Dance. I mean, she was there from, was it 8 in the morning or 8:30?
9 to 9.
9, well, not always, but
yeah,
at least
9.
on the weekends, like Saturdays, that's kind of how.
Yeah,
not
the weekdays.
Yeah, no, not the weekdays, even though.
It's like 9 to 9.
But yeah.
Well, that was because I
helped with the younger girls.
Yeah, she helped with the younger girls.
So that was part of the reason. But
yeah. But we see a lot of our students, they are dedicated. Demands. I am working with so many students and young people that are taking care of younger siblings. They're taking care, they're holding it down for the family. They're paying bills in the house. I need you all to feel me on this. There are so many demands. I don't know.
Not in my
no ideas. Don't give her no ideas. But they are holding it down. They're working. Some kids are working when they don't have to, but they want to be what? Independent.
Independent.
Yes. Balancing school life. I mean, it's a lot of demands. And last but not least, differences. The older your teen, you know, matures and become, you know, they may start to dress different. They may start to wear makeup and they didn't wear makeup, right? They may want to, I don't know, change that. At that age, they're changing their identity. They're, you know, they're trying to see who they are as a person. So you have a lot of teenagers who make different changes, okay? And some teens can come off different, or they may be standoffish, okay? So the ingredients, when we're cooking, right? The ingredients to building a successful relationship with a teenager is, the first one is honesty. When we always talking about somebody lying, right? She a liar. She lied, or he lied, or my child always lies. Okay, parents, do we tell the truth?
That's the thing.
Okay. Cool. I mean, can I get some hearts, some likes? When we talk about honesty, where do they learn that from? Parents. Okay, so we have to be honest. And I'm saying this respectively. Okay. Transparent. You have to be open. I'm not saying tell all your business. I'm not saying, you know, tell everything that you experienced as a teenager, but it's a good idea to talk about some of your experiences.
Right.
All right. So be transparent, be open. Don't just share a little bit, you know, as they get older, as they mature and they get ready for that information, right? Share some stories so they can relate to. Has that helped you, Sanaya? Me being transparent?
It definitely helps. It definitely helps. Whenever she tells me, once I get to certain ages, she's like, well, you know what I did at 17, well, the 17 years old, because it just it doesn't make me feel like, you know, it's like, okay, yes, maybe, you know, it's okay to make mistakes, you know, and it makes me feel a little more comfortable to come to her whenever, you know, I may make a bad decision, because I know that, like, she can relate to me, and it's not something that's just like outlandish, like what I did was just horrible. So
transparency is important. I've had some, you know, individuals to say, you know, I want to know what my mom is like, or I want to know what my dad is like, or why did you choose my dad? That's what I was getting at. I've had some students to ask me that, you know, or tell me that they want to know what their dad is like, or I'm sorry. I've had a student to ask me that they wanted to know why their mother chose their dad. That's a good question. Right. I mean, just be honest. I mean, maybe he was looking good when you met him, right? Maybe he was smooth when you met him, you know, like, just be honest and be transparent, because you want to raise transparent and open daughters and sons. Right. Okay, exactly. Amen. Supportive. And I'm not talking about, you know, I mean, yes, I am talking about the one who sits in the basketball stands cheering their child on, but be supportive emotionally. You know, ask questions. How was your day? What was today like? You learn anything new? You know, be supportive emotionally. Okay. Quality time. Got to get that time in, right? Got to get some time in. It could be 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, get it in. Okay. Approachable. If she comes to me with some questions and off the bat, I'm like, why did you do that? You know you're wrong for that. What, do you think that she's going to want to come to me again? Good question. Communication. Now, you all know that communication could be a whole topic of its own, Miss Toya. Communication could be a whole hour All right. But make sure that you all are instilling effective communication. And communication also includes what, which is a struggle for me sometimes, is what? Listening. Listening is I don't really struggle with that. But I am ready to speak. Like when she's talking, like I'm ready to say something.
What I'm saying is going one ear out the other because I got to say what I got to say. You going to hear me.
Right.
That's what it is.
Listening to respond.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for, Tori. Thank you. And along with that communication, what is your teen's love language? And there's a book by Dr. Chapman. Dr. Chapman is his name. Okay.
I got that. Well, it's not about. I got the love language book, but it's not about kids. It's like a relationship. But it's the same book you're talking about?
It's the same author, but he has one for teenagers to make it more relatable, you know, to teens. Yeah, good. But it's still the same 5: the quality time, the gifts, the acts of service, physical touch. It's still the same. Okay. The next one is, it could be hard for some of you all, but admitting when you are wrong and apologizing when necessary. Admitting when wrong, apologize when necessary. The next one is mental health checks, parents. What are we doing for self-care? This is definitely an ingredient for a successful relationship with your teenager. This is serious, parents. This is another conversation that could be a 1-hour thing. Mental health checks. Are you going to therapy? Are you seeing a professional therapist? Are you seeing your spiritual pastor for counseling? Do you have some type of village that you can go to and talk to? But most importantly, professional. Okay, professional and spiritual. Those are the 2 things right there, right? Because when we're parenting our children and our teenagers, we have to be mentally fit. Okay, we got to be mentally fit and to be prepared to handle what they're going to bring us. And if we're going through the motions, we're going to take them with us, right? Exactly. And then like the narcissism mom and dads and things of that nature, we've got to get that under control because that can be passed down to generation. Right. I don't know if I got some hearts or some likes, but I'm not a preacher. But it is what it is.
But you're preaching, though.
Okay, I'm not a preacher, but
she's preaching.
You're preaching.
But, you know, the narcissism is real. And even helicopter parents, okay? Helicopter parent, you know, that's a real thing, too. But we have to get our mental health in check. Okay?
What's a helicopter parent?
Just a parent who is like...
Hovers. And
hovering.
Doesn't really believe in privacy. And where are you at? What are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you talking to? Constantly, though, like a constant thing. It's kind of unhealthy at times.
Yeah, it can be unhealthy.
It can be unhealthy. So that's what the helicopter parent basically is.
And helicopter parents also, you know, show up in the schools, you know, just it's okay
with the bonnet on.
No, oh no. Not with the bonnet, but they are they're heavily involved, which that's great. Like showing up to school, showing up for parent-teacher conferences, but you got some parents who will email their teachers every day.
Overprotective is another word. Overbearing.
Yes.
It's very.
Yes, and there could be some underlying issues or challenges because of that. Okay, not saying it's bad to be involved. I don't want anybody to get that
codependent.
Yep. There you go. Look at my Miss Psychologist over here. But that is really important. That mental health and self-care is very, very important. Take breaks. Take a walk before you hurt somebody. Take a walk. You know what I'm saying?
Take a deep breath.
Call somebody and say, please help me over here.
Right.
And last but not least, partnership. Now, this may be a question, but not friendship, but a partnership. Like right now, all of us, we are acting as what? Partners. So it's okay to it's okay to partner with your team. It's okay to negotiate. You know, that whole thing like, well, I'm grown, you the child. we're not gonna partner. No, that is, to me, in my opinion, I do not recommend that type of parenting. Okay, not in these days and time. So my daughter's gonna step in and talk about some pet peeves, and it's come from an article. Okay, the article name is 15 Things Every Teenager Knows But Parents Don't. So Sanaya, who I think is doing a great job, she's gonna better explain. You're welcome. She's gonna do a better job explaining some pet peeves of teenagers and that type of thing.
Okay, so do you want me to just do these specific ones, or
do whatever ones you want?
Okay, so there's this one. The first one, it says, "Please don't read our journals, even if you feel like we're not telling you stuff." Now, as far as with me personally, I don't necessarily write in diaries or anything of that nature, but I wanted to kind of like expound upon this because I think it kind of fits within the topic of privacy. I feel like a lot of parents, their whole thing is, you too young to talk about some you in my business. You ain't got no business. Like, I done heard a lot of parents say that, like, what you mean I'm in your business? I'm not in your, that type of thing. And I feel like my mom said earlier, it's okay to, like, I mean, of course, be coming from a daughter's perspective, I like whenever my mother, is involved and she's asking me, how's your day? Who are you, dating? Do you see anybody at school? I like that. But at the same time, I feel like it is okay for kids to have a sense of privacy. I feel like it is okay. I feel like, of course, to a certain extent, definitely. But I feel like parents should normalize children, especially teenagers, because especially around like 16, 17, 18, we're at that point where we're just like, mom or dad, like, really? Like, yeah. So I feel like we should just definitely normalize having a sense of privacy, because on this website, it actually talks about something where her mother read something in her journal that she wasn't ready to tell her yet. And so it was like, now that sense of trust is like broken between the two, because it's just like, I wasn't ready to tell you. It was going to get to that point, but because you were invading my privacy, it's like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like that definitely puts like, a damper on the relationship. And as far as trust, because trust is definitely a big thing.
Now, if there's a situation going on where I'm fearing something is seriously going wrong,
right,
that's when you can
different.
I mean, I hate that because it's almost like it's kind of too late. But if you're teaching and instructing and guiding, it may not be too late. But if you sense that your child is facing some times of harm or danger, then as a parent, do what you have to do. But just snooping just because.
But because the thing is, the thing about like checking phones, my thing is, I feel like it should only happen when necessary. Because at the end of the day, I mean, just think about whenever y'all was teenagers. And if y'all had phones like we did now, what would y'all's parents see? Would y'all want y'all's parents to see what was in y'all's phones? So it's some things like you wouldn't want your mom to know. You wouldn't want your dad to know. And that doesn't mean that your child is being rebellious or mischievous or, being, disobedient. But at the end of the day, we're still growing teenagers and we're, almost young adults. So there's some things that why would you want to read that about your child? As long as there's nothing that is harming your child, I just feel like there's a line that you just don't cross.
Two more.
Okay. So the next thing is, don't respond with "because I said so," because it's not a valid or rational answer to any question. And I definitely I feel like that's definitely necessary, because when a child asks why, or when I ask why, it's not that I'm trying to be smart. I just want to know why. I just want to know why. I'm like, well, how come I can't? Because say, for example, I asked, well, can I go to such and such house? She says,
no.
And then, You say, well, why not? And he said, because I said so. I would rather you sit and tell me what is it about that friend or what is it about that environment that you don't like to where you feel like I shouldn't be there. And just sit down and explain that to me. Because because I said so, that just, I feel like that forms that division where I feel like you could just sit down and be like, I don't want you to go there because X, Y, and Z. That's it. And if it's something that you don't like about that friend, maybe I don't need to be hanging with them. You could teach me a lesson. You could be like, look, from my personal experience, I know how this goes. And then from that point on, then the child will do what they want to do. And you just go from there and they'll eventually learn.
Toya's like,
it's according to how the why is asked. Now, if you coming up talking about why, that's because I said so.
Of course. Be respectful.
That's why.
Yeah, yes. Now, you got come back around, turn around, and come back in here and say it.
Right. Try it again.
Right. Try it again. Right. Yeah.
So another one is, if we criticize you, don't try to turn the tables and play the victim, or at least hear us out first. And I feel like this definitely plays into effective communication because, everybody should be open to criticism, constructive criticism, Like you said, if we established at the beginning, everybody isn't perfect. And because typically parents establish this notion that I'm right, the parent is always right, the child is wrong, you stay in the child's place. I feel like whenever the child does be like, well, mama, you was kind of wrong in that situation, then they automatically no, you wrong, and then they shut down, and then there's no actual conversation, because it can be a learning experience for the both of us, instead of her just yelling at me and getting mad, because that just messes up the whole relationship. And I feel like that definitely, whenever you can actually just sit down and talk to each other and be like, you know what, I was wrong, I was that can help in the character development of your child. Because a lot of people pick up on what their parents do, and so it's just going to keep happening. They're not going to be able to get that criticism because they've seen their parents who will shut down immediately whenever they hear something they don't want to hear, when it comes to somebody that they see as, not beneath them, but not somebody who doesn't have the place to say something, basically. That can help in many aspects, and receiving criticism.
I'll do one more.
Let's see.
Ayana, can you agree with this, Ayana?
Very much so.
Is she on point?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
I think,
is that it?
Well, I was gonna do, because I kind of already touched on a lot of, because I've already touched on that pretty much.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna. Yeah.
That's fine.
So this next one is, please don't comment on our eating habits or weight all the time. And at the bottom, when they gave the description, it was more like, didn't you just eat? You finna eat this again? You eating up my whole house. Like those kinds of things. To expound upon that statement, because it's more than just weight, it's a lot, it can be a lot of things. I feel like, just compared to whenever our parents were younger, the world was just different. Society was different. And we're at a different point now where things that weren't deemed as, unfit, or things that weren't, there's certain things that people take so seriously now that wasn't as big of a deal, or, it's just, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just feel like y'all were more careless, and y'all weren't, in a sense of, when it came to when y'all was first getting, what did y'all have? Social media, wasn't it? When y'all was first getting
right.
the way in which we do things now, everything now has to be perfect. Whereas y'all lived in the moment. Y'all just
we played outside.
Y'all were free spirit,
right.
Right. Now
all day.
Everything is you gotta be like this, you gotta look this way, you gotta act this way, you gotta be, you gotta do this, then the third. And so certain comments pertaining to what they eat, what they wear, how they dress, what if they wear makeup, if they don't wear makeup, who they talk to, who their friends are, any of that nature, it can be more sensitive now than it would have been whenever y'all were younger, just because things are different now, especially with on weight. And I feel like that's why they specifically pointed that out, because eating disorders are definitely a big thing now, more common than people talk about. But I just feel like certain comments can trigger certain feelings that some teenagers don't even want to talk about, or they don't even know that it's a triggering statement for them, but they know how their body reacts to it. And just like how you said, we react with the emotional part. So then that's why we blow up and we just like, mama or daddy, leave me alone. We automatically, we're just, instead of sitting down and just being like, okay, what she just said, it hurt my feelings. Because some people don't necessarily just know how to deal with those type of comments, especially coming from a parent. So.
Great job. Great job, daughter.
Thank you.
So now we're open for discussion. I gave you what teens are facing today, because I think sometimes we get amnesia and we forget. But I discussed puberty, what they experienced during their teenage years, the different dealings, all the things that start with the D. And then I gave you all the recipe and the ingredients to building a positive relationship with your teen daughter and son. So now I'm here for discussion, or we are here for discussion.
All right, I have a couple questions I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Okay, so my first one is for you, Jessica. How do you manage your daughter's emotions?
How do I manage
your daughter's emotions?
My emotions.
Exactly what I just did.
Gracefully.
I did this. Oh my goodness. There's been so many times I can't even count, okay, how I had to stop and just breathe, okay? But to be honest, because us mothers, being that you're asking me, you know, and I'm a mom, we have our moments too. So there's times I've been moody, right? And what I do is I tell everybody in the house, I've had a bad day. I am done. I am tired. So when she comes to me with the emotions and all that, what I tend to do is just let her vent. I just let her ramble. Let her just, what happened, you know? So this is where I have to listen and let her explain what is going on with her emotions. Sometimes I just give her space, you know? She vents and then she goes to her room, right? So, but most importantly, that conversation piece and allowing her to vent and taking the time is very important. And then just helping her while she's talking and once she's done, just helping her name those emotions and ask her what, you know, where are these feelings coming from? And you don't have to be a therapist. I know that that's kind of like, you know, my everyday job, not kind of like it is, but allow your teen to really express themselves. Don't cut them off. And don't say, you know, things like, well, I taught you better than that. You fine. You fine. You know, you got food on table. You know, you got clothes in your bag. Why are you mad? You know, why are you upset? Lift your chin up. I mean, I do love the quote of lifting your chin up, but you definitely have to give your teen the opportunity to just vent and let it out. And parents, it's okay to ask, okay, before you begin venting, do you want me to just listen? Or do you want me to listen and give you feedback? So parents, we can give them, negotiate. We can ask them, you know, beforehand, how do you want this conversation to go? And that way you'll know how, you know, how the conversation will flow. So manage your emotions with teens is definitely, to be honest with you, a lot of things is based around communication and listening, which is the same thing.
You have a question online for so what do you do as a parent or child when trust is broken?
Well, remember I said we're not perfect parents, and
Well, okay.
we're
So
not perfect, but I'll let her answer that.
what I tell mom, well, is from a child's perspective. What I tell my mom is just I ask that she trusts me until I give her a reason not to trust me. Like until I show you that I'm gonna go against what you have taught me, then just put that trust in me. Because what I have seen with a lot of people, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but a lot of people who typically their parents are very like, nope, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, don't 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 do this. They like to go against their parents because that's that daring part. Very rebellious. It's just like people, like some teens like that adrenaline of like doing what I was told not to do. So I just feel like as far as whenever the trust is broken, I just feel like it depends on how, from the child's perspective, it depends on how it was established in the first place.
That's it right there.
As far as how you go on about when it's broken, because I don't know. That's
because as humans, we are constantly, not committed to our word. As human beings, we're constantly making mistakes. So it's common that the trust could be broken in a parenting relationship. And the good news is that you can rebuild it. You can rebuild it, but there is a strong communication. Once again, you've got to communicate with your teenager on the matter of which how the trust was broken. You've got to be authentic, and you've got to really, really step into your child's shoes, your teenager's shoes. And once it's going to be a process. I'm trust is the same whether it's your a partner, boyfriend, husband. I mean, it's the same, and you all know it's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight, right? It's not something that happens overnight. So it's going to be a gradual type of process. And so the ultimate goal is that so you can trust again. So in that case, you have to take baby steps into gaining that trust back. So just taking baby steps, and just making sure that you're having those teachable moments. I know my daughter don't like lectures, and I know technically lectures are not good, but you definitely have to find out what happened, not what's wrong with you, but what happened to where the trust was broken. And it's a good time to have a conversation about that trust that was broken. What can the teenager do to build that back, and give them the opportunity to come up with ideas, of what they can do to get that trust back. But don't give up.
Yeah, right.
We don't give up on our spouses. Right. Do we? No. Do we give up on our boss and our coworkers? Mm-hmm. Don't give up on our children and our teenagers when trust is broken. It is a process to build that.
And I believe it goes the same way, because children don't need to give up on their parents either. Because sometimes the parent we mess up just like they do. So
that's true. It's a process that you have to hold hands with each other, make an agreement that we are going to build this trust back, right? We're gonna do it, and teens want to be trusted, right? Right. Teens want to be trusted.
They might not say it, but they want it.
They want it.
Right.
Okay. This one's for Sanaya.
Okay.
What's one way you connect with your mom?
One way I connect with my mother. Okay. So does this pertain to like an activity or like something that we do to like bond, or just
like something you do to bond?
Right. So my mom is like the biggest person on self-care. She's always like, self-care is the best care, and she's yes. And so when it comes to pampering yourself, whether it's getting your hair done, getting your nails done, getting, any type of self-care, definitely that's whenever we connect, because she's created me this way. So now I'm like, When am I gonna have this appointment? When am I gonna do this? When am I gonna do that? But we also have like when it comes to like the older I've gotten, it's been more with like conversations on what's going on in the world and like, you know, just I don't know, mostly like conversations like what's happening in the world, politics, or just different topics, like, you know, kind of like what we're talking about right now. You know, we might just randomly have that conversation. Me and her like to talk a lot, so that's another way in which we connect.
That's facts.
What is one way you push your child to success?
Ooh. All right. So one way that I push Sanaya to success is, I would say, teaching her that there's not a one way to attain success. You know, I went to college, graduated three times actually. I have a trade. You know, her dad graduated, my dad, my mom, we've all had some type of college. My sister has had college. You know, her stepmother, we all have had some type of college, right? But I'm not forcing that on her. And so I am teaching her there is so many ways to be successful. And so that's one way that I push her to success, because I allow her and give her the chance to explore all options, right? Success does not look one way.
Right.
So there's no pressure. Even though I do give her a lot of information, and sometimes it can be overwhelming.
It's appreciated though.
Yeah, I give her a lot of information. So that's what I do to push her to success. I don't push this whole idea of you have to make all A's. I don't recommend that, because what happens when they don't make all A's, right? So because I don't push it, she does it. So sometimes parents, if we kind of not lay off, but just kind of relax, your teen and your child will do those things that you would want them to do. But you got to give them the tools first. You got to give them the knowledge first. And then you sit back and see, okay, let me see what they can do. And that's called freedom. They got to have a little freedom in that. So, but I do push Sanaya with, you know, positivity. You know, I introduce her to different careers that's out there, different concepts, different just perspective. We talk about a lot about perspective, about entrepreneurship, and the difference between clocking in and, you know, clocking in and the difference between that and being your own boss. We also talk about the trades, cosmetology, you know, makeup, plumbing, carpentry. Like, I want her to know about everything. I don't want her to just college be pushed down her throat. And I think that therefore she has a more, well, it may be difficult now because I've told her the pros and cons about almost everything. So now she's like, I don't even know.
I don't know what to do.
Like, I don't want to, yeah. Because but the thing is, teens, there's pros and cons to every career. I don't care what it is. Even entrepreneurship. Don't get it twisted. Entrepreneurship it can be very challenging.
Right.
So that's how I push it. What you think?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So what's the best way to make your teen comfortable enough to talk about their feelings about sex?
Ooh, let's talk about sex, baby.
No.
As y'all can see, I'm very comfortable.
Too comfortable.
Look, thank you for that question. I have been talking. Okay, first of all, once again, just like trust, it's a process. You don't, you know, at 5 years old, you're not talking about sex.
Really not.
But you are talking about what is good touch, what is bad touch, what's inappropriate. You know, you make that clear even younger than 5. Okay. And then also naming names, making sure that our teenagers, well, at that time, they do know the real name of their body parts. But when they're younger, give them the real names of their private body parts, just in case they need to report it. they can accurately report. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get me?
To add on to that, I saw where typically people who prey on children, they don't like when children say the real terms because they like the whole fantasy, the whole fake, the whole, you know, whatever names that they come up with. They like that better. So whenever it kind of takes away that innocence that they see in the child whenever the child knows like the actual real terms. So
yes, so real terms. And then when it comes to the actual conversation, I cannot remember what age, but it probably was around, I know you were in elementary school, like fourth grade.
Fourth grade, yeah.
Yeah, fourth grade.
Fourth grade. That's like the start.
Yes. And so the way I started, it was like it was like in the car. We're driving. I may hear a lyric. I may hear something on the radio. I may hear something on the radio, and I'm like, ooh, I probably shouldn't be listening to it anyways. So I'll turn it down. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. Have you ever heard that word before? And you know what, to be honest, a lot of our teens or younger people, teenagers, they do, but a lot of our younger people don't. But guess what? They will find out what it means if you don't tell, right?
Right,
so,
right.
So I think using music is an easy way. If you have a hard time, you know, talking and starting it, you know, the conversation, I think music is a great tool. You can turn on a song, and there's plenty of songs to choose from. Unfortunately, you can choose a song, play it, play about 5 seconds, you know, say, okay, what you know about this? Do you know about these lyrics? You know what I'm saying? So you can use music. But the answer to your question is have the talk. Just have it. Just do it, right? Just have the talk. And just know that having the talk is, you know, take it again in baby steps. Don't give the whole speech in one night, right?
Right.
Section it off. I think driving, for some reason, we get a lot of our conversations in the car. But take the conversations in babies in small sections, and then eventually you'll lead up to the moment and talk and be real. Be real about sexuality, sex education. Our teenagers should not, in my opinion, they should learn that from their parents, not their peers, not Snapchat, not Instagram. Y'all can tell on Snapchat.
Right.
You know, the thing is though, it's too late for a lot of our teens because they're already singing it. There's all kind of porn and all kind of things is going on. So why don't you have that conversation with your teenager? And like I said, use music, use magazines. Just even start with body image. Start there, mothers. Because typically mothers have these conversations, and even fathers. You know, start with the body and just talk about muscles, and you know, because now everything is about a booty, right? So we can talk about body parts, right? A booty, you know.
Yeah.
What's the challenge?
You talking about the busted challenge?
The busted challenge, the busted challenge, right? So you can talk about body parts and then move into the most serious part. But it's important to have a for real theatrical, your own curriculum, and it could be your own university of sexual health. That's what we need to aim for, parents, is sexual health, sexual education, and definitely abstinence is totally number one. And talk about abstinence and what is abstinence. Unfortunately, a lot of our students and teenagers, they're not going to abstain. They need to know about that part too. But definitely, you can talk about the abstinence. But if your teenager decides to participate, they need to know what to expect. And women, mothers, well, not mothers, but women, young women need to know if you get pregnant, like it may just be you and the baby. And that's just factual. It's not dogging the men out, but our young men, their brain definitely takes forever to develop. Okay.
Not forever.
You know what I'm saying? No shade, you know, but parent mothers, we got to lock that conversation in ASAP. And I said what I said. We got to have that conversation real early. We can talk about abstinence all day long, but some of our teenagers, they are going to go through some horrible things when it comes to sex. And trust me on that. Do not wait on that conversation. If they are uncomfortable, just tell your teen that we can come back to it, but we're not gonna, forget. We're gonna come back to it. And then, finally, if your teenager is having a hard time with that conversation, then find someone in your circle of friends, mothers and fathers. Find someone who could maybe help with that conversation, and utilize your social workers and your counselors in your schools. I know me, I am ready for a parent to say, hey, can you help me have this conversation? Because I am going to be ready to be on board to help them have this conversation. But you have to have someone that you can relate and talk to when it comes to that, right? So, use your resources as well. Use books, internet, like you can research ways to talk to your teens. But to me, I just talk about it. And sometimes she says, "What?" No, but she'll be like, "Mama," she'll be like, "Too much."
But
too
much.
But
here's the thing, though. At first, when it coming from me, because y'all, I get this all of the time. At first, coming from a child's perspective is very, it made me uncomfortable. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear my mama talk about this stuff. No. And it's funny because you be saying, but then it's like, whatever. But at first, it's just very uncomfortable. But once it became she just kept having the conversation, kept on, then I was able to be more open and be more okay, you know what? It's not as weird. Now, sometimes I still be like, mama.
She still does it today. Yeah.
But it definitely has gotten better with just being able to just actually talk about it. Because I feel like, it's important if your child does decide to start having sex, before marriage, that they can be able to tell you, that they feel comfortable to tell you. And I know a lot of parents instill fear and be like, if you do this, you're going to grow 5 legs and
Right.
So they won't do
7 of them.
Which is good and it's effective, but at the same time, if you want your child to talk to you about it, and if they do start doing it, or if they just want to know about it or just be educated, then it definitely helps kind of just break the ice and just break it, because it's gonna have to be talked about, whether you like it or not, because this is gonna have to
talk about all aspects of it. And mothers, we gotta prepare our teens for love. For real love. Mary J, we got to protect them for real love and intimacy. I mean, we have to stop this taboo, this walking and tiptoeing about love.
Because ain't
nothing. There's nothing
about it.
There's nothing like about love and a real relationship and a partnership between a mother and a father. And so I think we gotta do better with that. We have to. For our children's children.
Right.
That's another conversation too. That's a whole hour too.
Yes, but you don't want your kids to be ignorant.
Exactly.
Right. Especially if they graduate.
And naive.
Yeah. And even when you have the tools and education, you can still be naive, but it's better that you at least equip them, and then they make the decision and choice to do what they decide to do.
Right.
But don't let go, parents. Don't give up.
Right. Don't give up.
Don't give up on that conversation. Definitely don't.
All right. We are past the 8 o'clock hour.
I was wanting some more questions, especially about the
she wants you.
especially about raising African American teenagers.
Yeah. Oh, I did have a question. Let me find it. Hold on. I had one question. Oh. All right. So as an African American, or as African Americans, how do you teach your child or your children to survive in the world without invoking fear in them?
Real quick, I know we're running short of time, but just know that fear is a strong emotion. It's a human emotion. So, quite naturally, they may still have that fear just because of the racial injustices we got going on, the oppression that dates back forever and a day. So you may not be able to escape the fear, but what I think is important for parents to do, especially for our African American sons, and daughters, because we got to protect the Black woman, right? But we have to prepare them, and we won't be able to prepare them for every scenario. But I do think a part of the your own university of sexuality, I think you need to prepare your teenager for how to deal with racism, and talk about and share your stories. So this is another time for a parent to be transparent. It's not to be, you don't have to be combative or aggressive or have a meltdown because you start to think about how you were oppressed, but just keep it real with your teen about oppression. So you may have to pull out your dictionary and look up those words. What is oppression? I think that one mistake that the African American community that we make is that when it comes to our young people, we try to shy away from those topics because it comes off as toxic and political. We have to be now. You don't have to watch CNN every day, but it's important to talk about oppression. You know what I'm saying? It's important to talk about racism. But most importantly, and I'm gonna leave you all with this, because you can't always prepare your student and your child and your teen for everything. But most importantly, and talk about being confident in the skin that they're in.
Right.
Talk about confidence in the skin that they're in, their caramel skin, their mocha skin, their chocolate skin. Go back to those Afrocentric roots. I'm not saying you have to be Hotep and, you know, celebrate Kwanzaa and those types of things, but instill that confidence in them, in their skin color. You know, this colorism that we got going on, even in our community, it's ridiculous. And so I believe that parents should definitely become, you know, more woke, you know, wake up. You know, who says that? Wake up, everybody. You know, wake up. We got to wake up and we got to be there for our teens. Therefore, parents and therefore teens, to be a mother and to be a father it's the hardest thing. One of the hardest things that you'll ever do. So therefore, do not take that lightly, because it's a lot of teaching, a lot of praying, a lot of instruction, and praying again. It's a lot you have to do. It's a lot that comes along with parenting than just taking pictures and posting it on Facebook.
That's right. Right.
So confidence and prepare our African Americans to be able to love themselves and love the skin that they're in, and also to prepare them to how to deal with racism and social injustice, how they can be an advocate in their community, and how to just deal with driving while Black, walking while Black, running while Black,
just living
while Black.
Living while Black.
Yeah. Important. Well, anything else? Any last words? Any last words?
I just thank you for this moment. I don't really have last words. I think I probably said enough, but if you didn't learn anything today, is conversate with your team and have an open door policy, right? We want our teachers. We want our school teachers, right? We want them to have an open door policy. We want them to be able to, you know, do this and do that. Parents, I recommend and I guide you to be more of a communicator to your teams. And like I said, communication is a whole piece. I was even reading, Toya, which this is another conversation, but I was even reading, even when it comes to praising your team, like we have to be careful with labels and saying good job and great job. And I know I am horrible at that. Yes, really? There's research behind, because if let's say a teenager, I keep saying child, but you know, y'all know what I mean. But let's say a teen, if that's the only way that they get validation from their parent, and let's say they mess up, they get D's and F's, but the report card before that, they got A's and B's. So now it's like, oh, I don't get a good job. I don't get a great job now. Or labeling, saying like, well, you're always going to be smart. So what happens when they have a moment where they're not as knowledgeable? You see what I'm saying? So we got to be careful, and trust me, it's kind of late in the game for me, because I believe in positive praise, and that's a whole conversation, because that's dealing with behavior modification and positive reinforcement and those types of terminology. But we got to be careful. If we're going to praise our teenager, we need to give it more meat and substance. You know, you did a great, well, not great job. See, I noticed that you're at your computer a lot. I noticed that you you are engaging with your teacher, and leave it at that. You don't have to say excellent.
It's more about recognizing it and not necessarily like praising
acknowledging it. Yeah.
Right. Because then it's another thing is just like they feel like they always have to live up to that expectation, or always have to fit under that. Oh, you've always been such a smart kid, or you've always been such a bad kid. They always have to feel like because that's what they've been labeled as their whole life.
Now that's gonna take practice. Now that's gonna take practice because we were taught that stickers and all that was, And I'm gonna still praise and say great job.
The praise jar, remember? Yeah, the praise jar.
I'm gonna still praise and use great job, good job, excellent, but I'm gonna try to say less of that and be more specific. Okay, I'm gonna be more specific and praise the process of whatever they did right.
That's good, and that's good because. And I can say that with the whole "you're so smart" because I've heard that a lot, But sometimes I don't know the answer, and then you feel like, okay, I'm supposed to be smart, but I don't know. Then what you're supposed to do? You're gonna come up with some wild thing that you've done come up with that's not even the real thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just trying to fit into this. I guess I don't know, fit into this mold that somebody else has created for you.
Right.
And in fact, they said that type of behavior is the reason why some students don't raise their hand in class, because you told them great job and good job and you gave them a high five, but then when they get it wrong, it's like they feel shamed, you know.
And you're scared to get it wrong.
Yeah. So we got a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of research behind that about different things. So I'm not telling anyone what to do. Just be mindful. Just be mindful of these different practices and theories. But really thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you all learned some things today, and hopefully some of you all were able to take some of these things back into your homes. It definitely, parenting matters. Really they need us, and they need us to be connected.
Parenting is more than just providing. There's more than just, we appreciate you providing, but there's also more to being. Well, I'm not gonna tell y'all how to be parents. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Thank you very much.
The people connection, it's more than just, okay, I gave you food, I gave you clothes on your back, I gave you a roof over your head. That's it,
Right.
So, all right, I know we out of time, so.
Yes. Well, thank you all both for coming. I've enjoyed you. Would you like to say something?
Oh.
Yeah, Yana, I was waiting for you to, give some feedback too. Anything you need to say?
No.
Speak now.
Right.
Nah.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in tonight. I pray that you have gotten some kind of information about that will help you with your journey as being a parent, as well as daughters and sons, that you will see your parent in a different perspective as well, and maybe be able to assist them in their journey, and they can assist you in your journey. And so I just wrote down a couple of tips that I grabbed out of it. And it was one thing is we're going to work on being honest. Right? Okay. We're going to work on being transparent. As parents, we're going to be transparent to our children about our life experiences, right?
Good and bad. Mm-hmm.
Right. Good and bad. And then I need my child to be transparent too. Okay.
It's worth
it. We're gonna be supportive to our teens and our children. We're gonna have more quality time. Be more approachable, and then work on our communication skills. How about that? And then what's this that we need to do? Always and have a mental self-check. Self-check. Stop and check yourself.
Yeah, I love therapy. I have a therapist. I don't have any shame of saying it. So
yes. Well,
I didn't go to therapy. Give me a shirt that says pray and therapy. And going back to the communication, parents, also you all can write letters. Go back to write a love letter to your daughter, or write sticky notes and leave it in different parts of the home or in the car or you know, wherever, you know, if you have a hard time communicating, then be creative, basically.
Yes. All right, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in, and make sure you check us out next Thursday. We'll be here again with another discussion. Until then, be blessed and see you next time.
All right, bye.